Hitchcock. Thanks for jumping on Wealth Protector TV. And we get asked a lot about taxes when we're doing our workshops across the country. So I'm sitting down with my colleague Jim Timar to answer a couple of hot tax questions. Thanks for joining, and let's go talk to Jim. Hi everybody, this is Paul Hitchcock with the estate and asset protection planning firm BarthCalderon. Thanks for jumping on Wealth Protector TV. And I'm really fired up for this session. This is going to be a quick and dirty one covering a couple really hot issues. I'm here with my colleague Jim Timar. Jim, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great. So Jim is one of our tax experts. And Jim, I'm going to jump into this because these issues keep coming up, and I wanted you to address them for our audience here. One has to do with, this is for business owners, and for anybody who's listened to us before, they know we do a ton of workshops to groups all across the country. A lot of those are business owners, to Vistage International, the Women Presidents Organization, and a ton of others. So we get these questions at our workshops. We like to address them here. And so, Jim, the first one is, we get asked a lot about putting kids on payroll, either who are over 18 or under 18. Is that a good idea? Can you do that? And what are some of the rules around it?
Yeah, you can definitely do it, and sometimes it's a good idea. It depends on a few different things. So first, if we're talking about a sole proprietor and the kids are, even if they're over 18 or under 18, but they're still your dependents, then as a sole proprietor, you can actually pay your kids' salary up to with a federal standard deduction, and you can exempt them from any FICA taxes, so there's no payroll taxes associated with it. And if they're underneath the standard deduction, then they don't even have to file a tax return, so you essentially get a freebie deduction for their payroll. Yeah, so for sole proprietors, it's pretty good. You got to weigh out the cost. If you're not already using a payroll service, if you don't have employees as a sole proprietor, you got to kind of weigh the tax savings of paying the kids versus the cost of the payroll provider service.
Right.
But typically, if you already have employees and you're already using a payroll service, then you're already incurring the cost for the most part. So it's definitely worth it at that point, typically.
But you say if you're a sole proprietor, but what if you're a corporation or an LLC? Is it different?
Yeah, so if you're a corporation or an LLC, then you can't exempt the kids from the FICA taxes, so you still got to pay the payroll taxes. So if you're a California corporation and you're a California resident, then you can estimate the payroll taxes for the Social Security, Medicare, SDI, all the California taxes. It's roughly 17% or so. So you got to weigh that out against what your personal tax rate is and what you'd be saving incrementally.
Okay, and you can't just throw them on there and not have them do anything. You got to have them doing work, right?
Right. So, it wouldn't be reasonable to put a 2 or 3 year old on salary because there's not a whole lot a 2 or 3 year old could do. But,
other than scream and go to the bathroom in their diaper.
Yeah, exactly. But if you've got high school kids, they can be coming in, cleaning your office, taking out the trash. I know my dad used to do that with me when I was in high school. So,
right.
And going back with regard to paying them up to that standard deduction amount and not having to file a tax return for them, you also got to keep in mind if they're old enough and they have side jobs or summer jobs or things like that, you've got to kind of balance that out against what you're paying them, because if they have to file a tax return, the cost of the tax preparation or depending on how much income they have outside of what you're paying them may outweigh some of the benefits.
Okay, good information. Well, the other thing that comes up is, and I know there's a lot more around that issue you just talked about, so for anyone listening, feel free to reach out. We can dive into your own situation, but auto expenses. We get asked a lot about this. The new tax plan that's out from the government. Can you write off auto expenses, and what's the quick input on that?
Yeah, so if you're a business owner, a sole proprietor, LLC, corporation, not a whole lot's changed with regard to auto deductions. The cost of the vehicle. If you're a sole proprietor, then it's generally the greater of mileage at whatever federal mileage rate it is during the year, or you take your business mileage divided by your total overall mileage for the year, that determines the percentage you apply against your actual out-of-pocket cost for the vehicle, and you get the greater of either or. If you own a corporation or an LLC and it's a company-owned vehicle, then any direct out-of-pocket expense related to the vehicle for fuel, maintenance, insurance, lease payments, all that kind of stuff, all that stuff is still deductible, not a lot of change there. But the main change is for employees. And if you have to use your personal vehicle and you're not reimbursed for the mileage, and you typically are used to deducting the mileage that you incurred during, for work,
Yeah.
that's no longer deductible under the new tax laws. That's considered an unreimbursed employee expense, which was a miscellaneous itemized deduction. All miscellaneous itemized deductions are now eliminated for the 2018 tax year, and I believe that's going to keep going until 2025, barring any changes.
Interesting. So my takeaway in all this is you got to really have your thumb on the pulse of these new tax laws, especially if you own a business. Do it right. Make sure you're kind of buttoned up. Is that a good takeaway?
Absolutely. With all the changes, and there's so many different changes other than the common ones you hear about in the news, it's really important to reach out to your tax professional just to make sure you're on track and you can plan properly.
Great. Jim, great information. Thanks so much, and thanks everybody for listening. See you next time.
Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Wanna shake that